A very good evening to you, viewer of Church of Uganda Family TV. Thank you so much for watching HealthPort. HealthPort is a program brought to you by Makerere University School of Public Health together with Church of Uganda Family TV, and this program is centered around maternal and child health, early childhood development, and we also talk about other public health concerns. Now, my name is Edwin Austin Mukalazi, your host, and it's a pleasure having you tuned in on HealthPort this evening, where we are going to discuss what we call complementary feeding. Before we discussed breastfeeding and we went into the details of exclusive breastfeeding, but after the 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, there is need for complementary feeding. However, it has principles that you are supposed to follow, and when should complementary feeding happen, and all very many other components of complementary feeding. That and more is what we should expect in this show. With us is the one Pamela Kihembo, who is a public health nutritionist from the Makerere University School of Public Health. Pamela, you're most welcome to HealthPort.
Thank you for hosting me, Mr. Mukalazi, once again. So the previous weeks we had talked about breastfeeding.
Yeah.
We had talked about breastfeeding for the working mother.
Yes.
We had talked about hygiene.
Yeah.
So today we want to say what is after doing the exclusive breastfeeding for the
Yes.
6 months.
Yes.
What did you do? Yes, you have gone to work. You have managed to exclusively breastfeed for the 6 months. But after the 6 months, what next?
Exactly.
Yes.
And like we've put our topic, complementary feeding. What, in a layman's perspective, what is complementary feeding? How can you break it down so that someone out there can understand it?
Yeah, so complementary basically comes from the word complement. So to complement, it means you're complementing something. So complementary feeding is you introducing other foods together with breastfeeding. So you are introducing foods that are going to complement the breastfeeding. So complementary feeding at 6 months, the other time we said that before 6 months, breast milk is sufficient
Yes.
for feeding, for providing the necessary nutrients and water for the baby. But after 6 months, the child enters into what we call a growth spurt.
Okay.
So at that age, the breast milk alone is not sufficient to satisfy or to provide the necessary nutrients and water required for the increased growth at 6 months. So at that age, at 6 months, you have to introduce other foods that are going to complement the breast milk. So that's what we call complementary feeding.
Does it happen at the 6th month exactly, or we let the 6th month go and then we start it in the 7th month?
It is completed 6 months.
Okay.
Completed 6 months when the child is starting the 7th month. That's when you do complementary feeding.
Okay.
Completed six
Because
months.
that needed to be emphasized,
Yes,
because
yes.
some parents, when
Yes.
my child clocks 6 months, then I can't feed them complementarily.
No, when they have completed 6 months,
Okay.
that's when they are 6 months old.
Okay.
And if you are 23 years, you don't become 23 years the day you have started the 23rd year.
Yeah.
You become 23 years when you have completed
Yes.
the 23 years. At 1 month, when you're born today, we cannot say that you're 1 month. No, you've complete 1 month, then you say that you're 1 month old. Yeah, so it is completed 6 months when you are supposed to introduce complementary feeds.
Okay. So, what levels does complementary feeding take? Do you immediately start on the child with food, or how is it introduced? Because this is a child who has been feeding entirely on breast milk. Now you're introducing something different.
Okay. Actually, so at the end of 6 months, I know the child has been breastfeeding. We expect during that time the jaws to have strengthened a little bit. Maybe they have got used to, kind of trying to chew something. But they cannot chew. So basically, at the end of 6 months, you're supposed to give them semi-solid foods. So what are semi-solid foods? So semi-solid, it is the state between solid and liquid. So if you have solid foods, for example, you have Irish or matoke, you must make it semi-liquid by adding some liquid to it and then mashing it. So if you have a blender, let me start with people who have blenders. So at 6 months, you can blend the Irish, and we are going to look at how to increase the nutrient density. So you can blend Irish, you can mash the matoke, you can blend the rice, the cooked rice, you can blend it, you can blend even sweet potatoes. At 6 months, the child can eat anything as long as it is turned into a semi-solid. A semi-solid. You understand? So we encourage that you feed anything as long as it is turned into semi-solid. You can even give them vegetable soups.
Okay.
Even beans. But the beans, you have to remove the outer cover. So you soak them. Yeah, we call them firinda. Yeah, you soak the beans. After soaking the beans, you remove the outer cover. You remain with the inside bean seeds, and then you cook them, and then you blend them or you mash them with a little liquid. You understand?
Why do we have to remove the outer cover?
Because the children cannot digest it.
Oh.
Yeah, and it can cause gas and flatulence, and yeah. So anything, they can eat anything. They can eat meat, they can eat fish, as long as you have blended it or you have mashed it. Even the fish or the meat, you scrape it if you don't have a grinder, or if you have access to town, you can buy minced meat. Then you cook it and you mix it with the child's food. Eggs, you can cook for them boiled eggs, and then you add some little milk and you mash the egg, you feed the mashed egg. So they can eat anything as long as it is semi-solid. That is 6 to around 8 months. Then but they also take porridge. Of course, you have to give them porridge. You have to give them milk.
Which porridge? Because that is also important to talk about. Because when you talk about porridge, there are very many forms of porridge. We have millet, we have anything as long as.
I recommend anything. Not me, but maybe let me talk about the principles of complementary feeding. So in the principles of complementary feeding, we have what we call fativa. Those are the principles. You have to follow the frequency. So I will talk about frequency, how many times you should feed the child. Then you talk about the thickness. Now you asked me indirectly the thickness. So which thickness should I give? And what time? We have already talked about the timely introduction. Then the variety, we shall look at the variety. We shall look at active feeding and the hygiene.
Okay.
Yes.
I think at that we are taking a short commercial break, and when we return, we are going to go into the details of these principles, because I believe you who is watching us, you really need to understand them. Welcome back from that short commercial break. This is HealthPod. HealthPod is a program brought to you by Makerere University School of Public Health together with Church of Uganda Family TV. And this program is centered around maternal and child health, early childhood development, and other public health concerns. But today we are discussing a very, very interesting topic, that is complementary feeding. And under complementary feeding, just to give you a recap, of what I have learned and what I believe you also need to learn is that we should start feeding these children complementarily after the 6th month, when the children are in their 7th month. Now, they have told us that between 6 to 8, we can give them literally anything as long as it is semi-solid. So don't say, now that we've prepared this matoke, let us also save some for the baby, and you give it to them in that same form. You're taking it as an old person. No, theirs need to be prepared in a special way and made semi-solid. But we are with Pamela Kihembo, who is a public health nutritionist from Makerere University School of Public Health. Pamela,
yes,
we are back from the break.
Yes, so thank you, viewers. Before the commercial break, we had talked about the principles of complementary feeding, and I talked about the frequency. So
yes,
the frequency is how many times am I supposed to feed my child? So like I said, usually these children will break them into different age categories.
Yes.
So we have the 6 months to 8 months. Those ones who have just started, they are learning. Then we have the children from the 9 to 12 months, then from 1 year and above.
Okay.
Yeah, so children who are 6 to 8 months, you're supposed to feed them at least 2 to 3 times the semi-solid foods, in addition to breastfeeding. Remember,
so you don't abandon breastfeeding completely?
No, it is complementary feeding. We are complementing breastfeeding, and breastfeeding should be on demand if you can. If you can't, last time we said it should be at least 2 to 12 times.
Yes.
If you're a working mother and you can't breastfeed during the day, try as much as possible to breastfeed during the night and before you go to work. That's what we had talked about. So in addition to the breastfeeding, the child should be fed 2 to 3 times of complementary foods. So when can this happen? In the morning, you can give them maybe you can give them a porridge with milk. I'm giving an example. That's semi-solid.
Yes.
Then in the afternoon, you can give them a mashed egg with some milk.
Afternoon at around midday, at around 1?
Yes, at around 1.
Okay.
But remember, you have stored, if you're a working mother, you have stored your expressed breast milk.
You've not dropped the other routine of expressing the breast milk.
Or you are even with the child and you're still breastfeeding. Then in the evening, they have to take another meal. And remember, these children,
Evening at around what time?
maybe at 8 before they go to sleep.
Okay.
So the other times they are taking breast milk.
Okay.
So that is for the children who are starting, the infants. Then for the 9 to 1 year, the 9 months to 1 year, even above, you're supposed to feed them 3 to 4 times a day, but you can do even up to 5 times. And after 1 year, children they can eat family foods. A child of 1 year can eat family foods, the foods that everyone is eating. But before 1 year, they should still be
semi-solid.
Yeah, they should still be eating semi-solid foods.
Okay.
If they are not semi-solid at that age, then give them soft foods like a banana. At a child who is almost 1 year can eat a banana. Yes. So that is the frequency. Then from frequency,
thickness.
We are going to talk about thickness.
Yes.
So we had already said that before 1 year it is semi-solid foods. So but also how semi-solid should my food be?
Yes.
So if it is porridge, the porridge, if you power porridge, it should not be easily getting out of the cup. It should hesitate to get out of the cup. It should be a little bit thick. That's the thick porridge, like for a woman who has just given birth. Though not very thick that the child might fail to swallow it. Yeah. So you should balance. It should be thick, but not too thick. You understand?
Yes.
Yes. So that is the thickness. It should not be very liquid. It should not be very. So it should hesitate to pour out of the cup or the spoon, but it should be thick enough.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
That is the thickness. And the T also stands for timeliness, but we had already talked about
Yes.
the timeliness.
Yes.
So it is completed 6 months. You understand? So then the other was Fativa. It is the active feeding.
Yes.
So what do we mean by active feeding? Active feeding is you in not forcing the child to eat. And we have that tendency of forcing the child to eat.
We are Africans.
Yes. So if you give the child food to eat, they refuse the food. You are advised to try a different food. If they refuse that food, then wait for them maybe to become hungry, and you keep their food somewhere, they will ask for it. Children always ask for their food back when they get hungry. If you are giving porridge, so let me say you have porridge and you also have access to milk. So maybe Monday you could make the maize porridge with milk and blue band. The next day you can give milk. The other day you can give white porridge. The other day you can give maybe porridge with groundnut pastes, the chipoli. We all know chipoli.
Yeah.
The OD.
Yeah.
So another day you could add an egg. So if you fed today rice,
But there are also parents who
Yes.
add wheat flour.
it's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And cassava flour.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's children should eat anything.
Okay.
And we also encourage that you give all these different foods to know the child's favorite. Sometimes if you keep giving one something and the child doesn't like it, you might not know that there is something that they might like. And we always encourage our mothers to give what the child likes as long as it is healthy. But you do not recommend like giving chips. Those are empty calories. So that will lead me to nutrient dense.
Yes.
Yes, so you are supposed to give a nutrient dense diet to your child. So the nutrient dense is what we call the variety. Yeah. So the variety, no, that is different. The nutrient dense is if you're preparing porridge.
Yeah.
The children have small stomachs. That's why we also don't give very watery porridges and watery purees and semi-solid foods because of their stomach being small. If you give food that has a lot of water, they have taken in nothing. They have taken in water. So that's why it should be thick enough. So also for the nutrient dense, if the food is small but it is loaded with a lot of nutrients. For example, you might cook, you have heard of chitobero.
Yes.
The chitobero. So what happens in the chitobero, you have the carbohydrate, the energy giving food, and then you have the protein. So you have the animal protein, you have the plant protein. Let me say you have put vinyeva and mukene. You have mixed them together, and then you have also put the carbohydrate, you have put the greens, and then you have mashed the food together. So you see all the different types of foods, you have put them in one food.
Yeah.
So even if the child eats something small, he has picked something.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And there are foods which increase the nutrients. For example, if you added some bit of fat, like the muzigo in the food, it increases the energy.
Yeah.
If you added some blue band, or if you spread bread with butter, you have increased the energy. So you spread the bread with butter and you give the child milk. It is, even if they take something small, it has nutrients.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So that is what we call the density, the nutrient density.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, as we wind up this discussion, what are your closing remarks, especially advising parents on what age exactly they should stop breastfeeding.
Okay, maybe before we wind up, the other principle that I had not talked about was the hygiene. So we talked about hygiene last time.
In details.
Yeah, we talked about hygiene in details. If you did not watch, I should go back and
they should go to our YouTube channel and look out for that.
Exactly. So it is, we recommend that complementary feeding starts at 6 months, completed 6 months.
Yes.
The complementary food should be frequently fed. We talked about the frequency.
Yes.
We talked about the variety. You should feed different foods from different varieties, and egg, milk, millet, rice, potatoes, everything. Children should eat everything. Okay. Then we talked about the thickness. Complementary foods, we said for children who are less than 1 year, they should be semi-solid, but they should not be watery. Then we have talked about active feeding, and so you shouldn't force children to eat. You should sing for them. Basically that is what complementary feeding.
Well, thank you so much, Pamela. It's been a pleasure knowing this information as well, especially when it comes to complementary feeding. And to you, our viewer, it's a pleasure having you following from when we started up to now. It's been a pleasure. We meet again next time. This is Health Thought on Church of Uganda Family TV.